I'm Deanna Cantrell, co-owner of Leadership Learner, and I'm delivering these 10-minute quick tip videos on topics that I believe will be meaningful to you as mentors, as mentees, as leaders, and just generally as people. I'm taking classes that are typically 2 to 8 hours long, and I'm going to boil them down to the nuts and bolts, to what I think will be the most practical and useful information for you. So do me a favor and provide me some feedback so that I can make adjustments as necessary in order to help you as much as possible. Additionally, if you want a full or partial class that's more than 10 minutes, or even if you wanted to take maybe 4 of these 10-minute quick tip videos and turn them into 2-hour classes each for an 8-hour day for your agency, give me a shout and we will work out the details. So today's quick tips is about delivering constructive feedback. It's one of the most challenging things for anybody to do, no matter how much experience you have. Constructive feedback should be used with the intent of helping an employee or a friend or a mentee on improving in a behavior or a situation, mostly in the workplace, but not always. Seems easier than it is. Feedback's not only hard to deliver well, but it can also be really, really hard to receive well. So remind yourself to have a growth mindset, meaning that not only can everyone learn from their mistakes, but we can also benefit from them. So constructive feedback is not intended to hurt someone's feelings or downplay their work. It's meant to help them. It's meant to help the organization, and both of them should grow from it. In order to do that, it should be delivered without negative undertones or personal feelings getting involved, which sometimes does happen. So it's always best to prepare, plan, and deliver. Let me move my slide over one. There we go. Always best to prepare, plan, and deliver. So first, consider who the feedback is for. If it's for a friend or a mentee, it's going to be different than if it's for an employee. If it's for a minor incident, then it's going to be different than for something more critical. There will be no need to document, and it can be much more informal if it's for a mentee or a friend. Next, figure out what type of feedback is needed. Is it informal feedback, which really could just be a helpful reminder or a discussion in passing, or maybe even an email? That might be all that's needed for the situation. Or is it something that involves behavior that has occurred previously? This is something that might be repeated, or something that's high liability, or a behavior that has a significant impact on the organization or morale or the culture, and those things might need to be addressed more formally. So next, determine what behavior needs addressed. What is it that you're addressing, and what is the impact on the employee, on other employees, and on the organization? So I want you to think about the plan. And what is the plan for the future? What training and development might be needed? Also, I want you to consider what it will look like if the employee doesn't improve, because that can happen. So now that you have prepared and planned, you should also practice before you deliver it, because the delivery is really probably the most difficult part. So decide when and where you're going to give the feedback. Is it something that needs to be done on the spot? Can it wait for a planned meeting? Either way, you need to think about what that feedback is going to look like before you try to deliver it. And if you haven't thought through it, you may react emotionally and say something that you might regret later. This does happen. If you know something is coming at some point, you really should try to develop a plan for not only what you want to say, but how you are going to say it. We all know that communication is about 7% the words that you use, and it's about 93% voice, tone, pitch, and body language. So be careful of those things. It's difficult because, we don't want to hurt other people's feelings. And so I've seen that we do one of two things. One, we typically either sugarcoat the message so much that it's so watered down that the person receiving the feedback doesn't really fully understand what you're trying to tell them or the feedback you're trying to give them. Or we go to the other extreme because we are so uncomfortable with these types of situations, or uncomfortable with conflict, that we cut off all of our empathy and all of our emotion, and we deliver feedback that is so harsh that it damages our relationship with that person, and it may damage our reputation as well. So I always try to remind myself that the only reason I'm giving somebody feedback is because I care about them and I care about their future. I generally will start with some kind of statement about that. I think I'm going to move this slide forward one. I generally will start with a statement about that. Something like, hey, this is difficult for me to have this conversation with you, but I care about you and I want you to improve. And I know nobody else is having this conversation with you. And so, you know, that's why we're here, is because I care about your success. And even though it's difficult for me to have this conversation with you, I know it's important, right? Something like that. It's vulnerable and it lets them know that it's not easy for you either. So remember the platinum rule, to treat other people the way that they want to be treated, not the way that you want to be treated. And if you're in a mentoring situation, you can ask your mentee, how would they like feedback? And you can also let them know how you would like feedback, because that's a two-way street. So I'm very direct. I can't give feedback in a way that I would like to receive it, because it doesn't work for most people. So avoid criticizing statements. Try to focus on the issue, the behavior, and the impact, and not the person. Don't forget to make a plan, and make the plan with them for their future. You should always say you should train, coach, mentor, develop, and discipline, or develop first before discipline. Now, you can't always. Sometimes discipline comes before all of those things, but I find most of the time we missed an opportunity to train, coach, mentor, or develop. So always try to do those things first, and remain open to their suggestions and their questions, because they should have some kind of say on what's happening with their future. And then say what has to be said. Don't sugarcoat it to the point that it's not understandable. Say what has to be said, and then you can move on. Sometimes when we're angry or we're upset, our defense modes can kick in, and we want to point the blame outward and somewhere else. And this is especially common when receiving constructive feedback. So phrases such as, you know, you were late to the meeting, or why were you late to the meeting, can sometimes come off as insulting to the person receiving it. So instead, try to focus on what I call SBI. Let me forward that: situation, behavior, and impact. So a good example of this, I was in a meeting with my command staff, and it was captains, lieutenants, and there was one sergeant there in the meeting, and I asked for input on something. I can't remember what we were talking about, but the captain gave his opinion first, which I never recommend. Don't give your opinion first. Don't let the highest ranking person give their opinion first. So the captain gave his opinion, and then the sergeant disagreed and gave a different opinion, which I'm very happy about. You absolutely want that in your organizations. Well, the captain pushed his chair back from the table. He crossed his arms. He had a little bit of a scowl on his face. And everyone in the room, I believe, read the situation correctly, including the sergeant, because the sergeant stopped talking. And so I prompted the sergeant to continue. But after the meeting, I met with the captain, and I used SBI, situation, behavior, impact. And I said, hey, situation, during the meeting, you know, we were talking about X, whatever it was, I can't remember. And when the sergeant gave his opinion that happened to be different than yours, you, behavior, pushed your chair away from the table and crossed your arms. Did you happen to notice impact, right? Did you happen to notice the impact that had on the sergeant? And the captain, he already did. He knew it happened. He recognized it, and he told me he already went and talked to the sergeant, apologized, which I was very happy to hear. But I did remind him of the impact that a leader that doesn't listen will eventually be surrounded by people who don't have anything to say. And so you don't want to be surrounded by yes people. If I needed to talk to somebody about maybe being late for a meeting, instead of just flatly asking them, hey, why were you late, or pointing it out to them, I might say something like, situation, hey, we went over some really critical information at the beginning of the meeting, and I would have loved to have had your input on it, right? Behavior, was there something that, something happened? Was there something that was going on that made you run late, right? just phrase it into a question, and then get their answer, and then have the impact. The impact might be, your opinion's valuable to me and the team, and not only do you set an example by being there on time, but people will get to benefit from your experience and your thoughts, right? Which is a compliment. So maybe an easier way than just saying, hey, why were you late? So focus during the meeting on yours and their body language, your tone, their tone, your emotions, their emotions, and the words that are being said, and try to practice active listening. Because if you do that, you're going to recognize if you need to change tactics. You may need to. You need to address sarcasm. You have to address eye rolling, etc. And try not to get emotional or take defensiveness personally, which is difficult. So purpose, forward here, purpose, planning, and partnering. You have to make sure that people understand why they're there and why you're talking with them. So check for understanding of the issue and give them a chance to talk. You have to give them a chance to be a part of the planning for their improvement. You have to set future goals. You have to monitor progress. You have to document if necessary. Remember, in a mentoring situation, that you don't really need to worry about documenting it, because that's not the purpose in a mentoring conversation or a mentoring relationship. If, however, you're having a critical conversation and giving constructive feedback, maybe to a subordinate that has repeated some behavior or something that's more serious in nature, you definitely need to keep documentation of that conversation. And I would keep emails, notes, memos, all of those things, in case you need to have them at a later point, if you have to follow up with an action plan or some kind of plan for improvement. I always like to send myself an email that, with the details of our conversation, because that way it has a time and a date stamp on it. So at the end, make yourself available to the employee. Let them know that if they're doing well as you monitor it, and if they've improved, make sure you congratulate them. If not, go back to the drawing board, right? The bottom line is that we all have to be moving in the same direction in our organizations in order for our organizations to be successful. And when our organization is successful, we generally are more fulfilled as employees. So kept it close to 10 minutes. Best of luck to you on your next constructive feedback session. And if you want a deeper dive into any topic, give me a call or send me an email.